Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. I got a video today from Manosphere Highlights Daily. This is part 2 of the Norah series with Manosphere Highlight Daily. This is how she dealt with the dating phase of when she became a man. Please like, subscribe below. I really appreciate that. Let's give that chow. It's chow time.
Norah was reminded that in this arena, it's women who have all the power.
We sit there and we just with one word, no, will crush someone. And the thing is, we don't have to do the part where you cross the room and you go up to a stranger and say the first words. And those first words are so hard to say without sounding like a cheese ball or sounding like a jerk or whatever else.
Never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily, and welcome to part 2 of our breakdown of Self-Made Man by the incredible Norah Vincent. In Self-Made Man, Vincent embarks on a remarkable journey wearing the guise of a man to unravel the mysteries of the male world. I highly recommend reading this book for yourself, as we'll only scratch the surface in this video. Today, we'll skip the 3rd chapter, Sex, because we have to make a Patreon version because of the explicit information that's shared and won't be suitable for YouTube. So for today, our focus is on the 4th chapter, Love. This is my favorite chapter because in this segment, Norah gets the most relatable experience as a man and encounters the biggest shock of her journey. We'll explore 4 key themes: dating realities, he said, she said dynamic, complexities of desire and double standards, bitter women in their mid-30s. Let's talk about it.
The wall.
We men and we. We men and we.
Yeah!
I thought dating was going to be the fun part, the easiest part. Certainly as a man, I had romantic access to far more women than I ever did as a lesbian, and this felt like the best of all possible boons.
The journey of the story is the most fascinating part to me. The main character starts the journey with a certain perception, an idea of how life must be. And when the main character faces the truth, it forces the main character to change. In Norah's mind, dating was going to be the easiest part. She thought this was going to be fun. Why does she think like that?
When I started the project, I had suspected that I would find hordes of women for whom Ned would be the ideal man being essentially a woman, or a woman in a man's body. But I was wrong about this. It wasn't that simple. Women's desires were stubbornly kaleidoscopic and their more subtle proclivities even more uncategorizable.
Wow, that is a very good word. Kaleidoscopic. Can go from here to I don't even know what the fuck is going on with these kaleidoscopes.
What I love about Norah's book is her wordplay. She uses specific words to emphasize her point. Let's take a look at this word, kaleidoscopic. Quickly changing from one thing to another. Now, let's have a look at this graph. As you can see, there's a significant gap between divorced lesbian marriages compared to divorced heterosexual and gay marriages. This is not a coincidence because just like Norah said, women's desires are stubbornly kaleidoscopic, and their more subtle proclivities even more uncategorizable. So if you put 2 agents of chaos together, you'll have even more chaos. This is where Norah starts learning the male experience when it comes to dating.
Rejection is a staple for guys, said Curtis, laughing as I crumpled into my seat with a humiliated sigh. Get used to it. That was my first lesson in male courtship ritual. You had to take your knocks and knock again. It was that or wait for some pitying act of God that would never come.
Nope.
This wasn't some magic island in a beer commercial where all the ladies would light up for me if only I drank the right brew. Try again, man, Curtis urged. Come on. Don't give up so easily.
I mean, it makes sense why she thinks it's gonna be so easy. Women seem to think men just have life so much more easier than they do. They don't realize the little nuances that we have to do to get women?
Rejection. Men learn early on that rejection is part of the dance. Curtis, Norah's wingman, was clearly enjoying Norah going through the process because this is what all men in general experience when dealing with the opposite sex. However, what's interesting about this book is that it came out in 2006. That's almost 20 years ago. This is before Me Too. This is before social media and dating apps blew up. Times only got worse for men in the dating market. Rejection can...
And this is why I cover these things so much and more often nowadays. I do 4 videos a day now. I'm thinking about doing 5 a day, but currently I'm at 4. I'm enjoying it.
Cause serious problems in modern times. Yet, women still expect men to approach them just to reject them some more.
Yeah.
And Norah's experiment makes her realize why the dating experience is not fun. In our next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the aspects of what makes dating not fun for men.
There I was, caught square in the middle of the oldest plot in the world, he said/she said. It was the woman's job to be on the defensive, because past experience had taught her to be. It was the guy's job to be on the offensive, because he had no choice. It was that or never meet at all.
This is pure gold. Choice. An act of selecting or making a decision when faced with 2 or more possibilities. Men's options are limited. So when presented with the choice to play the game or sit it out, a simple cost-benefit analysis leads to the conclusion that men shouldn't play at all because the juice
Passport
ain't worth
Bros.
the squeeze. So if this is a game, then the game isn't fair.
Nope.
And you don't need to be a genius to figure this out. You just have to use common sense and look at it from a male's perspective. The only power women have in this game is the power men give them. It takes 2 to tango.
They had only bothered to turn halfway around to talk to me, their faces always in profile. Now they turned all the way around to face me, their backs to the bard. I understood this reaction immediately. I had predicted it. But still a part of me resented their prejudices. I was still the same person I had been before, just as any given strange man is a person beneath his blazer or his baseball hat. As a woman, I was accepted. As a man, I had been rejected yet again. I understood intimately the social reasons for this, but it seemed unfair all the same.
This is the exact reaction from women when men take half of their assets, and the court orders them to pay alimony and child support. It's unfair. But when it's the other way around, men seem to deserve this unfair treatment purely for being men. The rejection part was not the worst part for Norah. The worst part was being judged as guilty until proven innocent.
And what do you guys do?
Norah says the brush-off Barbara Jones gave Ned was typical.
She was just sort of emblazoned with hostility, just looked at you and you saw everything cross her face, which was, oh, God help me, not again. I'm trying to have a drink with a friend and I've got to deal with you.
This prejudice is something Norah also engaged in and writes about in her book, following the lead of radical feminism and thinking all males were tainted by the patriarchy. Every guy she met was on probation. But to experience this prejudice firsthand struck a nerve. Welcome to the club. There's nothing fun about this.
Equality,
Do you have any
bitches.
Rarely.
It was just an
pretty
ordeal.
unpleasant. Yeah.
She says the pressure of Ned having to prove himself was grueling. Norah was surprised that many women had no interest in a soft, vulnerable man.
So how must men feel when it's a true encounter and everything in the game seems stacked against them? They make the move, or the women bluff them, without tipping their hands, into making the move. The guys step out, stupidly, it now seems to me, into the space between, saying something irreversible and frank, a compliment or an outright indication of interest, and most of the time the women step away, or laugh disdainfully, and the guys are left with their asses in the wind. That's the sport, and men are the suckers.
Yeah.
Women guard the gate and men storm it. Natural selection is brutal, and women do, in the immortal words of Jim Morrison, seem wicked when you're unwanted.
Once again, the wordplay. Stupidly, it now seems to me. Men are the suckers. In other words, the foolishness. Men's frustration is legitimate, especially when they figure out that they've been played for fools, and this was just the approaching part of interacting with women. The majority of
Which is probably one of the harder parts for a lot of men, is to even approach women, right? And then there's another level of dating a woman as you're dating. Then another part of things getting serious. We can fuck up so many ways on all those steps, where women, they just glide through these things.
of men are rejected even before they have a chance to go on a first date, because women are the gatekeepers. Norah said, women guard the gate. So if you manage to get to the dating stage, Norah provides some great information about women's complex and paradoxical desires in our next chapter.
And it's funny because we always talk about you never want to listen to a fish telling you how to catch fish. This is exactly the reason. Women seem to think that women all want this nice, soft, great, caring, emotional man. But when she became that particular man, guess what? No women took care of him or her in that way at all. So yes, women cannot catch each other because they don't even understand each other to the degree of what they want. They understand each other as in women nature, but they don't understand their true desires as women.
Pass my test, and then we'll see if you're worthy of me, was the implicit message coming across the table at me. And this from women who had demonstrably little to offer.
Yes.
Be lighthearted, they said, though buoyant as Lead Zeppelins themselves. Be kind, they insisted in the harshest of tones. Don't be like the others, they implied, while having virtually condemned me as such beforehand.
The sense of entitlement combined with unrealistic expectations is what turns men off. We're not even talking about the shit testing that never stops. It's interesting that Norah mentions
Ketchup test, orange test.
that this comes from women who have little to offer. In our previous video with Laura and Steve Urkel, I asked the question, what is it that you gain from having a girlfriend?
Men are typically expected to court women, approach women, ask them out on dates, maybe pick them up, pay for dates, make the first move, etc. What are women expected to do to build a relationship? So I'm talking about that initial stage. What are women expected to do?
Wait, so are we saying that like like he takes you out on a date? Like,
No, he's like, so like when you're like, let's say like the first date, like usually on a first date, like a guy picks you up, like he takes you there and he's like expected to pay, but like what are like you expected to do, kind of like in these like datings like scenarios?
just be
Bring good
yourself.
conversation.
Be yourself. Like are you expected to impress him? Do you want to do a party trick? I don't know.
I feel
Yeah, but you expect us to impress you and to be a party trick and to entertain you because we have to be funny, we have to be charming, we got to be good looking, we got to know what the hell we're talking about.
It's interesting how women can't even answer this question. And it's ironic how a woman can only figure out how ridiculous this behavior is when she is on the other side of the table. There's a lack of empathy for men. And Norah explains in her book that women don't understand or care about what men think, feel, or want in this regard.
Do you think women understand what it's like to be a man?
Not at all. No clue. No idea.
The mindset is extremely selfish. Let's take it a step further.
They wanted a man to be confident. They wanted in many ways to defer to him. I could feel that on many dates, the unspoken desire to be held up and led, whether in conversation or even in physical space, and at times it made me feel quite small in my costume, like a young man must feel when he's just coming of age, and he's suddenly expected to carry the world under his arm like a football.
Pretty
And some women
much.
did find Ned too small physically to be attractive. They wanted someone, they said, who could pin them to the bed or, as one woman put it, someone who can drive the bus. Ned was too willowy for that, and came up wanting.
Ned is freaking 5'9" too. I'm 5'7". Imagine how shorter men than me at 5'4", 5'2" feel that they cannot compete with this feeling that women want to be protected, to be manhandled, to be thrown into the bed.
Yet as much as these women wanted a take-control man, at the same time, they wanted a man who was vulnerable to them, a man who would show his colors and open his doors, someone expressive, intuitive, attuned. This I was in spades, and I always got points for it, but feeling the pressure to be that other world-bestriding colossus at the same time made me feel very sympathetic toward heterosexual men, not only because living up to Caesar is an immensely heavy burden to bear, but because trying to be a sensitive new age guy at the same time is pretty well impossible. If women are trapped by the Madonna complex, men are equally trapped by this warrior/minstrel complex. What's more, while a man is expected to be modern, that is, to support feminism in all its particulars, to see and treat women as equals in every respect, he is on the other hand often still expected to be traditional at the same time, to treat a lady like a lady, to lead the way and pick up the check.
Yeah, modern women get to be modern in any way, shape, or form, whatever that comes as. But as men, they want us to be modern, but yet still traditional. We gotta be as modern as everybody else, but we still have to have the exact same traditional values that our forefathers did, 50, 100 years ago. How can that be?
Paradoxical, double standards. It's completely normal for a man to feel confused when dealing with women. Men have the tendency to make sense out of everything, using logic and rational thought. Remember, it's okay not to have all the answers. Navigating these intricacies takes time and self-discovery. After all, we're not born with a manual for understanding every aspect of relationships. That's why these videos are essential. We offer guidance and a shining light in the darkness.
My prejudice was that the ideal man is a woman in a man's body. And I learned, no, that's really not. There are a lot of women out there who really want a manly man.
I've read a comment on the Steve Urkel video stating that men don't know how to talk to women. But that's not the point here. It's not about understanding how to talk to women. We're not dating coaches. This is about if it's worth talking to women. Is your time, money, and energy put to good use? Do the benefits outweigh the costs? As a man, you want peace of mind. Is the juice worth the squeeze? That's what this is about. Not every road leads to treasure, and some are best left untraveled if the destination offers little more than the struggle of the journey itself. Let's take it a step further.
We met for dinner at a cheap Chinese place I knew. All these dates were breaking me financially, and based on past experience, I was hoping it would be a short evening.
This is pure gold. She's losing her money on an experience that's not worth it. If men are the buyers of the product, you can't be mad that they want a quality product and a quality experience. I've said it many times on this channel. Most women are boring.
True.
Norah experienced this firsthand. She has to be the playmaker, so to speak, to make the date interesting. And at the end of the day, she has to pay for it. You can't make this stuff up. It's like paying someone to rob you. A woman doesn't have to reciprocate a man's interest. But this doesn't mean that a dating experience can't be fun. Norah's experience dating women in general wasn't fun at all. And this is coming from a woman that has women's best interest at heart.
Did you have any fun?
Rarely.
It was just an
pretty
ordeal.
unpleasant. Yeah.
She has a lot to say about women in their mid-30s. This takes us to the next chapter.
The wall, pretty much.
The bitterest women I met were usually in their mid-30s or older. To most of the women I dated, even a date or two meant a lot, especially women who had been out roaming the singles scene for years in their mid-30s, trying to find a mate amid the serial daters. Almost inevitably, they were carrying the baggage of previous hurts at the hands of men, which in many cases had prejudiced them unfairly against the male sex.
Yep.
For them, as for so many of us, romantic hurt equaled romantic blame, and because they were exclusive heterosexuals, romantic blame was assigned more often to the sex, not the morals, of the person inflicting the pain.
Baggage plays a key role in the failure of modern relationships. It's for a reason why we recommend you not to date single mothers and women who have a high body count.
And women over 30.
It's not a coincidence that second and third marriages have a higher divorce percentage. Same thing goes for dating older women. It's not just because of the baggage. It's also because of the wall. Older women have the tendency to be stuck in their ways. Listen to this part of the book.
How could it be otherwise? When a woman approaches a man armed to the teeth with ulterior wounds for which men as a species are presumptively to blame, the man in question has little choice but to fight back, and when everything he says and does is measured against the front-loaded politics of sex, he can't help but shrivel or putrefy under the scrutiny. Sadly, this alienation dynamic, while temporarily unpleasant for me, the man in these cases, worked in the long run far more to the detriment of such women, who were not only desperately unhappy, but doing everything to ensure that they would remain so.
Oof.
Their refusal to see men as individuals, and more importantly to see their initial encounters with them as tabulae rasa, doomed them from the start.
Do you understand why we recommend not to argue with women? Do you understand why we are not making these videos with the purpose of trying to convince women to change their ways or to be better women? It's a waste of time because women's behavior is environmental. This negative image and idea of men is being perpetuated by the sisterhood and society in general. You could be God himself and still you would be guilty until proven innocent.
If the most disgruntled women I met and dated as Ned had ever been attuned to men's signals, by the time I met them, they were long past receiving outside information of any kind. Moreover, if the way they discussed their pasts and the way they approached me was anything to go by, they seemed incapable of seeing any new man as an individual. Worse still, they seemed to transform each new man, benign or otherwise, into the malignancy they were expecting him to be. They tended to see a wolf in every man they met, and so they made every man they met into a wolf, even when that man was a woman.
That's why we are talking to men on this channel, because it's on you to make the choice if you want to participate in this. Once again, the only power that women have in this dating dynamic is the power that men give them. Women are happy to go on dates because men need to ask them and take care of everything. Nothing happens if men are not interested. Women need men to take the lead. Women need men to believe that the juice is worth the squeeze.
That's why they're so upset at the MGTOW movement and the Passport Bro movement. Those are the men that they want them to approach, but we're not willing anymore.
Women in their mid-30s hit the wall, and with that comes a decrease in attention from men, especially the men they crave. Like Norah said, in the long run, this alienation dynamic worked to women's own detriment. A woman beats the wall by solidifying her man in her prime, builds her family, and gets the praise and loyalty from her man, children, and grandchildren after she hits the wall. Post-war women should not be dating. Norah's journey exposed her to the complexities of male-female interactions, leading to moments of temporary misogynistic feelings. However, it also opened the door to forgiveness, prompting introspection about emotional arrogance and recognizing the shortcomings in both men and women. After Norah's experiment was over, she happily went back to being a woman. Men don't have this choice. We navigate the intricacies of dating and relationships every day. Norah's experiment and her insightful book serve as an invaluable education for men and women, shedding light on the complex dynamics of dating. In conclusion, Norah Vincent's experiment offers profound insights into the rabbit hole of dating and unravels the complexities of women. As we dive into the upcoming chapter about sex, we encourage you to reflect on these key takeaways. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Patreon supporters, salute!
Shout out to Manosphere Highlights Daily. Rest in peace, Norah. Thank you for all of this insight and knowledge that you've given us through your book and through your own experiment that you were willing to do and put yourself out there. Very few people, especially men nor women, would be willing to go into the opposite sex's skin and live a life like that. Please like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate that, and I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao.